All right. Welcome, Mike and Jordan. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and One Inc?
Yeah, I'll start with a little bit about One Inc. and then we'll go into individual introductions. So we are the leading payments network driving modernization in the insurance industry. We allow carriers to really fulfill their promise, which is to deliver insurance when it's needed the most, right? So while our solution really drives efficiencies, it's the customer experience that we're going to talk about today.
Love it.
So Jordan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Jordan Hunt. I have been with One Inc. for about 2.5 years, growing out the expansion efforts into the life, annuity, and health markets, and super excited to speak with the audience some today. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome.
Yep. And I'm Mike Fidler. I actually lead our life, annuity, and health team here at One Inc.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming today, guys. We'll jump right in. When carriers think about digitizing payments and how to innovate them, they often think about the incoming payment, how to make it easy as possible to collect the premiums. It's common to skip over the payout during claims, but why is that last mile so important?
Yeah. So the payout is again where a carrier really delivers on their promise, right?
Yes.
So claims can be emotionally charged. It's usually a stressful environment for a customer, and that speed of payment, that payment choice can really make a difference. And again, that smooth process is what drives trust and it drives brand reputation. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that was spot on, Mike. The thing that I'd add is just, or maybe double click on, is just being emotionally charged. I think whenever you're moving money and it's involving a consumer, your emotions get heightened. I'll add in a personal experience. I bought a car from Carvana about 1.5 years ago. I'm looking at doing another one today. And still,
Nice.
1.5 years later, they're supposed to send a $750 refund for something that didn't come in our minivan, like a center seat. And I still haven't gotten it. And it's not the dollar amount tied to it, just frustration. And so related back to insurance payouts, it is an emotionally charged event. And getting it right is the difference between maybe turning a beneficiary into a policyholder or just keeping a policyholder happy. So it's highly impactful.
I love it. Love it. So why is the payout so hard to digitize on the claims side?
Yeah, I can start and then maybe Mike can add in here. So I think at a foundational level, it starts with historically, when you think about disbursements, they were made via check. ACH comes to market 40 years ago, and a lot of carriers still struggle in getting to ACH because there's attachments needed that need to send with the paper check. And so if you do that through ACH, you're still sending paper attachments with an explanation of benefit or explanation of payment. And so that's kind of the foundational issue that legacy bank solutions struggle to support. And then when you add on top of just the current environment that a lot of life carriers deal with, a lot of different legacy systems, complicated workflows for different disbursement types, whether it's an annuity payment, a death disbursement, maybe a loan disbursement. There's a lot of different workflows that are needed. And then every state has different regulations and limits that you have to pay attention to. There's fraud and security concerns. So overall, there's a lot to consider, and that's why a lot of the market is still struggling to digitize outbound disbursements. Mike, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think what I'll add, Jordan, is policyholders, they're looking for a lot of different payment preferences, and that by itself creates a lot of complicated workflows. There's still a lot of checks being pushed in the industry. You have to make sure you have the workflows to support those that do still want to check. There's regulatory requirements and individual state limits, concerns over fraud, and how do we look for security and monitor fraud. So it's just so much for a carrier when they're looking to modernize the experience, and it makes it difficult.
Yeah, that's amazing. When we built Benekiva, I said we can't digitize the entire claims process, intake to payout, everything in between, and then tell the carrier go back to the check is in the mail process. So
Yes.
it's interesting. Historically in insurance, when we talk about making a more modern payment experience, especially on the claim side, we think about direct bank deposits instead of checks. Walk us through your ideal best-in-class life claim payout experience of 2026. What does the beneficiary or claimant actually experience?
Yeah, certainly. So what I'd say is that there are certain use cases that checks still may be the best solution, but a best in class experience, even with checks, there should be kind of real time updates
Yes.
made from the payment provider back to the carrier, and then the carrier surface those within some portal. The paper attachments that go with the check certainly should be there as well. But then more broadly than that, and getting into kind of the true modern experience, there's digital alternatives that should be available. ACH, maybe some product types, even more options than that. And are those options user friendly? Are they available kind of via desktop, mobile, tablet, things like that? And is the claimant or payee being guided step by step through the process from the carrier? Those are questions that every carrier needs to ask and get answered if they're truly trying to drive a best in class experience.
Love it.
And Jordan, I agree. We add to that the customer experience. So user-friendly digital experience, the ability to access a platform through a desktop, through a mobile device, through a tablet. They want to be guided through the process, step-by-step instructions on how should I answer these questions? What documents do I need to attach? How do I attach those documents? And then most important, and you said it earlier, Jordan, they want those real-time updates. They want to see how their claim is working through the process.
That's really interesting, especially with some of the things that both of you have said are the exact same things the experience is expected on the claim side. So not only are we talking about that experience on the claim side, but we're also talking about extending that experience into the payment side as well.
Mhm.
So with that, what patterns have you seen in payment methods by product type in the life, annuities, and health space? Are there certain methods that are better suited for certain products?
Yeah, we feel strongly that the options should really align with the product. So consider things like the urgency of the payment or the payment preference that claimants are asking for. So in the traditional life space, we still see a lot of checks, and where carriers have migrated into a modernization effort, the percentage of ACH is growing rapidly.
Mhm.
We will actually see real-time payments come out for our customers later this year. And then for that younger demographic, there's still that need to support PayPal and Venmo and some of
Yeah.
those things that those younger demographics are looking for. On the annuity side, since that's more of a recurring payment, the need for that transformation into automation is more important. Tokenization of the preferred payment method for ACH, and here in the near future, RTP is going to be, real-time processing is going to be very important. Still that younger demographic wanting PayPal and Venmo. And then there's still a demographic that's still going to want that check placed in the mail. And we have to be able to support that too. And on the health side, we actually see kind of two tracks in the health side. For provider payments, it's ACH primarily through a vendor network where vendors are already picking their digital preference. We
Mhm.
also see a high adoption in the provider space of these virtual cards. That's the ability for a provider to get that funding real time through their merchant processing terminals. So a high percentage of those in that space as well. The other side of health is reimbursements directly to the policyholder. So we're seeing, again, a lot of checks in the industry for those that haven't yet modernized, ACH for those that have, RTP coming here shortly, and again, the digital wallet for that younger generation.
Awesome. You mentioned the real-time payments for certain items, which leads me to, one of our first clients was preneed insurance. So let's talk about funeral homes. Why is preneed such a unique payment environment compared to traditional life claims?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brent. And it comes back to something that we said in the opening, with the concept that insurance carriers have a lot of complex workflows depending on product type. And for pre-need in particular, the payouts are going to funeral homes directly. And
Mhm.
so that is a B2B uh, workflow. And that workflow is different than a consumer workflow based on giving a good user experience uh, to the funeral home and what they need. And so just another disbursement type, another workflow that One Inc supports, and different from a traditional consumer workflow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and some of the best practices that we see on the pre-need side is, again, not only just the ACH, but the need to support those virtual cards for a faster payment option, the ability to manage that vendor network to be able to
Mhm.
store their payment preference. For One Inc, it's our claims pay solution, and that ability for that vendor to actually have a portal where they can set up their payment preference, they can change their payment preference, they can see attachments to payments, things like an EOB, understanding where that payment's coming from and how to reconcile. And then again, like we've mentioned a few times, just like claimants want that real-time interaction, that real-time status,
Yeah,
vendors want that too. They want to see that status come through and know exactly where they sit in that workflow.
that's awesome. All right. At the end of the day, what outcomes would carriers see if they think about transforming the payment process, not just the premium side, but the claim side?
Yeah, so we find that when carriers focus on both the money in and the money out, they do unlock significant operational benefits, and it helps them again drive on that promise to deliver insurance when it's needed the most. So when they modernize both sides of the payment ecosystem, they're driving faster payments, accurate payments, more straight through processing. They're providing that full transparency that vendors and claimants are looking for, which again builds that trust and loyalty and generates growth from happy customers. Jordan, what would you add there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good summary. But when you think about the specific business outcomes, not only digitizing payments, so migrating from check to ACH, but you're also eliminating a huge pain point that life carriers have, and that is call center volume. I
Mhm.
mean, we have examples 500,000, 700,000. There's actually a big RFP we're working on. They have millions of calls to their call center annually, and the number one driver of that is not only inbound payments but disbursements and where's my check, things
Yeah.
like that. And so a lot of operational benefits to gain both from inbound and outbound payment modernization.
It's so interesting you mentioned that because now this is the second time we've had correlations between the claim side and the payment side because we run into the same thing as well. People want to know where their claim is at and where they're at in that process. And if you give them a digital way of understanding that, then guess what? All of a sudden they don't have to make the phone call to the call center. So
Mhm.
that's very interesting.
Yep.
Let's double click on the lifetime loyalty for claimants piece you talk about. Revenue retention. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. We built the whole revenue retention module for Benekiva, but it's not something people normally think about for claims. Depending on the claim experience, carriers may have opportunities to protect the next generation. Do you work with any carriers today who are focused on how to help claimants manage funds after they receive the claim payment?
Yeah, we see lots of carriers actually building relationships around that claims experience. So they're
Love
doing things like resources for budgeting, they're providing investment guidance, tax planning, they're educating customers on how to convert a lump sum payment into a future long term annuity. We're seeing carriers actually partner with fintechs and financial services company to offer things like trust accounts, investment
it.
accounts, other retirement products. The message that we hear is we want to take care of your family in the future too. So we're seeing these products embedded in all the way down to things like grief counseling and the ability to have a dedicated advisor that's going to support them during some of the difficult decisions they're going to make at those difficult times. And Jordan, I think you have some specific examples to share.
Yeah, I'd say three of the top kind of 15 or so carriers in the industry are actually hyper focused on this, and that is the idea that they're dispersing billions of dollars annually and only retaining like a small fraction of them, 3 to 5%. And so even if you get a 1, 2, 3, 4% uptick, there is huge potential in revenue generation from that. And so as a strategic partner to the carriers that we work with, we're working on ways to seamlessly have experiences that they can capture a lot of that on the disbursement side.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the idea of Benekiva actually came from my previous business where I was an investment financial advisor. And it was so interesting that the retention piece is such a huge opportunity. I've said this for years about Benekiva, that Benekiva will be an ultra successful company doing claims servicing. But the reality is Benekiva becomes an amazing company when we tackle the retention process. When you can take a claimant, a beneficiary, and turn them into a new policyholder or a new client, that is literally like the number one rule in sales, right? It's easier to sell people you already work with as opposed to go get a brand new person to sell. So, when we created that retention module, it was all about that. Turn a beneficiary into a new client. However, on the claims side, what we found was you can't send them through a crappy claims process and then turn around and ask to do business with them. It just won't work. I've tried it. Yeah. It just doesn't work. So I love the idea about, taking that retention piece to the next level, because as you mentioned, Jordan, 3 to 5%. It's interesting. When I did the research for Benekiva, for 3.5 years, I sat with 147 people in the industry talking about claims, servicing, and retention. And I remember having a conversation with one of the tier one CFOs. I won't mention the tier one carrier, but I asked him a specific question. I said, when you send a claim payment out, how much of those dollars come back into the business as new clients? Basically, how much do you retain? Now, this carrier sends out $billion+ a year. And I said to him at the time, I said, what I'm hearing is it's roughly 3 to 4%. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, here it's 1.7%. Can you imagine sending out billions of dollars a year and only retaining 1.7%? Right. I think that's a huge opportunity in the industry. And that's where you can take claims and the payment side, marry those two together, and really provide the service that, interestingly enough, the beneficiaries want your help. Right? Yeah. But again, you can't send them through that crazy claim experience or payout experience and then expect to do business with them.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
And Brent, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it makes me think of a story where we've been deep in conversations with a carrier for a few years. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago, the COO was mentioning, like, we want to blow beneficiaries away so much that they too want to come be a policyholder. Yeah. And then you talk with the finance side of the house, and they're like, oh, well, we need to minimize the cost of check processing, and so we outsourced it. We got it. We saved X number of dollars from doing it, and in doing that, moving from in-house to a bank provider, the bank sending a check, they're sending separate attachments themselves as a carrier. And like you talk about a bad experience that someone is going through in a horrible time, and then you're getting separate piecemeal pieces of the claims process together. Yeah. And so it's all parts of the organization need to be working together to achieve objectives. And that's a case that we can hopefully solve together in a later day.
That's
Just
awesome.
gray hair just thinking about it.
Well, you saw what it did to my gray hair.
That's great.
All right. Well, we've talked about a lot today. If you could share, where do you recommend carriers start for maximum impact?
Yeah, Jordan, you want to start with, I think you've got a few there, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so it ultimately depends on the carrier's profile, right? But I think optimizing current state, like we talked about the problems that we see with check processing altogether. But two, you got to start giving some digital option, a better alternative to sending a check. In addition to things like enhancing transparency, do you have any sort of digital claims portal today? Is there any sort of notifications being sent out? I think those are kind of the foundational things to start with, and questions that need to be asked to start modernizing. Mike, what
I picked three. One is, we've talked about offering the flexibility of all the different payment options. Let the claimant drive the payment choice. That's where the satisfaction is going to come from, when they feel more in control.
Sure.
The second one is focus on empathy and personalization. We're seeing a lot of training in customer service staff on how to show empathy, how to handle difficult situations, and then how to tailor communications back that also have empathy and personalization tied to them based on the situation. And then the third is financial wellness and education. Again, become that trusted advisor. Offer educational classes on other products and services. Turn that structured, or provide those structured settlement options when they're going through that one-time payment process. Invest in products that are going to build on, we talked earlier, build on that relationship for taking care of them in the future. That's what really drives organic growth.
I love it. I love
and
it.
Jordan, I think you have measure and optimize. Is that right?
Those are always objectives for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, where can folks learn more about or see what modern payments actually look like?
Yeah, so we encourage anyone who's interested in more information to visit our website at oneinc.com. They can book a demonstration of our money in, money out solutions. They can read through leadership articles and stay up on the latest trends for digital customer experience.
That's awesome. Jordan, anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, no, One Inc is out in the market. We are at pretty close to every insurance conference that there is, and all over LinkedIn with a lot of good content and a lot of exciting things that we're doing in the market. So reach out. Any of the channels are good options.
That's right. We're out there. Come find us, right?
Yeah. And then you're also partnered with us too. So obviously, if any of our clients want to hear the One Inc story, certainly reach out to us and we'll get you in contact with the right people. But for today, that was amazing, guys. Mike, Jordan, thanks for joining us. It's been a real pleasure, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Brian.